Welcome to the Chapters of Grace podcast. Thank you so much for listening today. This is Sarah's husband, Gabe. If you listened to the last episode, you know who I am. Thank you so much for listening to our takeover of the podcast. We've had a lot of fun. We will be back in January. Sarah and Heather will be back. And me, Shawn, and Bryce, we might be back too. Who knows? If we survive this second episode coming out. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope that you guys have a great holiday season, and we'll see you soon. Oh yeah. There's something that through work I like a leadership tool that we use, and it's knowing yourself and being able to lead yourself. Like, you have to know yourself to be able to lead others. And that's something that, you really kind of have to work through, because when you're a father, when you're a husband, you kind of have to figure out how to really, you have to figure your own mess out to be able to know how to lead them properly. I know for me, like I was saying earlier, I'll be honest, I haven't been to the doctor and been diagnosed, but I'm 99% sure I have ADHD. I mean, it is what it is. And a lot of people deal with it, but I've noticed through reading books and different things about it, I'm seeing so many things that I'm like, oh wow, that's why I do that.
Yeah.
That's why I don't finish anything. That's why, there's just so many things where it's stacked up, and I was just overwhelmed. Okay, I have this information. Number one, God can, intervene. He can do anything. So the first thing I do is I pray and, ask God to help me get better at these things that I'm failing at, But when it really comes down to it, there's a lot of things where you can do where now that I have this information, how do I combat it? How do I figure out how to work on myself, how to get past these things, to be able to lead my family better, to be a better husband, to be a better father. Yeah. And that's something that I think is very important. I think being, again, about being intentional is not only being intentional with your wife and your marriage and with your kids, is being intentional about what you do, say, and just everything. Like I said, I won't say, I'm not going to make a YouTube video about it. It's not that great, but I do have a morning routine. And ever since I started that, kind of implementing little things like that in my life, I realized if I get up and do my morning routine, I'm not going to be yelling at the boys when they wake up and ask for a million things before 7 a.m. Yeah. It's kind of, if you're intentional about something like that, if you put focus on it, then there is a result that comes out of it. Yeah. And that can be applied to so many things as a father, as a husband. And I think that's kind of I hope that if you're listening to this, you're in one of those categories, because if not, you're probably gonna be a little bored. But but I know. So we are in a small group at our church that it's Dad's group. That's one of the things that we focus on is just how you are as a husband and a father. And I think that's very important for men of God in this day and age, is to really focus on what you're doing, because I feel like a lot of people go through life just kind of living life as it comes, and that's great. I'm sure they have fun with that, but if I did that, I'd be crashing and burning, and I have in the past, and I crashed and I burned, and I came back with God's grace. And so, I was kind of a little bit of a veer there, but I really think that in talking about this dad guilt and kind of a lot of the things that we're talking about today, I feel like we need to be mindful of what we're doing on the other side of it. We know it's there.
That's exactly right.
We know that it happens. How do we get over it? How do we combat it? How do we do something about it?
Yeah. And that was going to be exactly my point as well. I'd been thinking about this quote that I shared you from Dad Tired's page, and Gabe is staying humble, but he's leading our dad's group, and it's amazing. But so he introduced us, to Dad Tired on Instagram in his book. But one of the things that he actually put out a poll to, dads that in his community, and one of the responses was about parenting and your life and stuff. And one of the responses was, parenting is an opportunity to address who you really are. It will bring out the best and the worst of you. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've been noticing is, seeing a lot of myself in my son has helped me see that too. But you're exactly right. And that was exactly my thought too, is like, it'll bring all that stuff out, the best and the worst. And a lot of times I feel like the worst is what you see more, what your kids bring out of you. But it is that. It's like, God is such a God of grace in that there must be a thing in that with kids where it's like they don't usually remember the first couple years, and that gives you kind of a buffer to get yourself straight,
The grace period.
Yeah. Especially that firstborn one.
Yeah. Because I see so much like, with my son, where it's like there's stuff where I just can count, it's countless times where I'm like, man, I could have done that way better. But of course, being, kids, another opportunity is going to come up. And so I'm glad, that I've actually grown a lot as a man and a husband and a father through that, seeing that worst. And, our wives definitely will let us know as well when those things arise. But taking those and putting intention to them and saying, you know what, this isn't God's best. This isn't the best version of me. This isn't God, his image of me. So like, what does that look like? And then preparing yourself too, like, this is going to happen again. And what do I want the response to be when these situations come up? But, so that helps, with some of that dad guilt, because then you're working towards being a better person, but also you think about how much grace God has on you, but also your kids have on you too. And they're still going to view you as like a superhero.
Yeah. So, and there's so many times, like you said, and being intentional. That's the big thing is when you know that you're going to mess up, know that you're not going to get it perfect, knowing that mistakes are going to happen, being intentional, and that's something that I've had to learn over the years. And like you said, those first ones, I feel it's a good thing my oldest probably doesn't remember those first few years of her being alive, because that was a rough patch for me and my wife too during that season of our life. But even then, just trying to figure out how to be a dad, I didn't know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to be a dad, but did no clue what I was doing. But yeah, just being that intentionality and just knowing things are going to happen, but also being intentional and knowing like, okay, that happened. Now I know how to do better and be intentional and to not let it happen again. Let my anger overtake me or my frustrations.
Yeah.
So it's.
Oh, that's really the grace of God, isn't it? I mean, that's honestly, that's the best picture you can show your kids. Like, because you see all the time people that come out of cults and different messed up religious things. It's because they portray this image of Christianity and believing and following Jesus that's like, it's inhuman, and so I think that's a big thing too. When you show your kids like, mommy and daddy aren't perfect, but there is a God, there is a father. Like, I've told my oldest, like, daddy is not perfect, but there's a father in heaven that I want, I'm helping to get you. I'm trying to help you get to know who is perfect, who's always going to be there. He's never going to let you down. And that's what I think about, trying to teach our kids about following Jesus is like, I'm going to mess up so much and you're going to mess up so much, and it's totally okay. We be intentional and we learn from that and we grow from that. But then even better, like, there's somebody who wants to know you, who's perfect, who knows you inside and out, who has an incredible plan for your life. Like, and that's our thing too, is like, we may make decisions that affect our kids, not all of them, but my biggest focus is like, if I can just get you to know Jesus, then 95% of everything after that is like kind of covered. Like, I'm going to do the best that I can, but like, if you know him, then when it's good, it's good. And when it's not, you'll have him to talk to and to know in that.
Yeah. And one thing you said too, just kind of trigger something my wife always told me before. It's something she learned from her uncle, who passed away a couple of years ago now. But one thing that that's always kind of stuck with me is like, if you mess up, when you lose your temper, you've lost your temper, and you've done things like, okay, probably that wasn't the best move. Like, even apologize, like going to them, like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I know that was not the best thing to do, and letting your kids know, like, hey, let them know that you're a person too. Like, don't set this wrong expectation. Like, when they mess up, you're expect them to say you're sorry, but when you mess up, like being kind of taking that responsibility, like, hey, I'm sorry, Daddy messed up. I shouldn't have lost my temper. Let's reset. Let's keep going. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for your kids to see and to understand that, and because it shows them too that you can forgive them and they can forgive you, and then that's the ultimate, the God forgiving us for what we do. I mean, obviously we have to ask for God to forgive us for when we mess up. It also shows them, like, hey, and also I think it feels like gives them a good example too, like when they're older, that they realize, hey, when I mess up, I can go to you and say I'm sorry. I don't have to be afraid. Because I think that's a lot of times we have some dads have that guilt or that mindset of, hey, I've messed up. I can't go to God and ask for forgiveness now. I've messed up. I've done too much stuff. I've messed up, and even setting that early example for them to see, like, go in and apologize and step up and do that, and that they feel like they know that they feel comfortable and know that they can apologize for something and not be reprimanded
Yeah. Bryce, I just want to touch on something you were talking about. Like, I really think that I didn't realize being a father would affect my relationship with Christ as much as it has. You know, I've been saved since I was a little kid. I won't say I'll definitely say that in the past, I would say 5 years, I've definitely come to know God closer than I ever have. But it's so you understand God's heart more as a father. And when, I don't know, it's just like when your kids screw up, like, I really feel like, I don't know, there's just those moments where it just kind of like hits you. It really hits you. When I was growing up, like I said, my dad was a clown, and he used to do in his services that he would do. There was a skit that he would do where he'd play this Phillips, Craig and Dean song. Shout out to 90s Christian music. But it was the chorus of it was I want to be just like you because he wants to be just like me. And it was like a dad talking about his child. And I legitimately to this day can't listen to that song without bawling my eyes out. You can ask Sarah. We were on our way back from Disney World, and we were listening to their greatest hits, and it came on, and literally immediately just like boom, just started pouring. And Sarah's like, what is going on? Are you okay? I said, yeah, it's the song. I just can't it just doesn't. But it really, it hits me now different than it used to, because my sons walk around the house with, Spider-Man masks on because they want to be like me because they know I like Spider-Man. Yeah. It's, if you put it in that context, it's crazy. It's really crazy.
I was talking about buddy in Florida about that exact thing. Like, there's certain things, work from home. So I have a whole desk set up, and I have just a routine. I have my different things that I bring with me and I set up. Like, I put my phone on a charger, and then I have my workstation. And so one of my son's favorite things to do is to come over and, Daddy, I work. And he'll come over and sit in my chair and roll up to the desk. And he's got an old iPhone 4 that doesn't work. And he'll put it on the charger, and then he'll start typing away and running the mouse. And it's like, on one hand, that's kind of like one of the boundaries that we have for him. Like, you don't come over here, you don't mess with this, because sometimes my laptop won't shut down or it won't go to sleep or whatever. So there's like open emails, and he just starts typing away and firing stuff off. And then I got to go clean up. But at the same time, it's exactly that thing. It's like my son, and it comes with, the whole grace thing overall, is it's like I'm seeing and having to be aware myself and take, count to 10 before we get angry, and like really just take a couple moments and be like, he's not being bad. He's either got something else in mind that I'm not thinking about, or like you said, he's just trying to be like me and do what I do. And how I react to that, makes the difference, whether, it's a good or a bad interaction with him and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's exactly right. And that's huge to remember.
It really hit me it's a couple months ago when I was, I don't remember which one it was. They were about to do something, and I think they were about to. We have a piano at our house, and they were about to close it. And I said, "Don't play with that. Don't mess with that, because you're going to close your fingers in it." As the "in it" was coming out of my mouth, they did it. Closed the fingers in it. And I think it was our youngest. So I was holding him, and I'm just telling him, like, as he's crying, I'm like, "It's okay, buddy. I just told you, as you were playing with that, if you mess with it, you're gonna squish your fingers and you're gonna get hurt." As I'm saying that, and I'm like, loving on him, but also like correcting him so that he doesn't do it again, I just started bawling. I was like, there's so many times where like I screw stuff up, and I feel like God's saying, "Okay, I just told you, if you did that, this would be the consequence. This is what would happen if you did that. You knew. I told you." And I'm just like, man, come on,
bro.
Why you got to do that to me?
Yeah, so that's one of the ways I feel like God speaks to me too a lot of times, is he'll remind me, like, when I'm in those moments, and I think back of my children, it's kind of like when they're reaching up for me, and like just those moments. It's just crazy how God can use your kids sometimes to reach you, sometimes even when you don't feel like you feel like you're good, and then something like that happens, and you're like, oh wow.
It every time, and I feel like he uses specific things with me as well. I was praying, recently about something, and I was like, "God, I need you. I need you to intervene." And one of the things our oldest does, he comes up to me and say, "I need you, I need you, I need you," like that, and I'm just like, man, like, what? Like it's just, I feel like it's like a constant thing that happens, but I feel like it's just God saying, like, "Hey, put this together, because I need you to learn something from this, and therefore I need you to learn something from it so you can teach him something about this." And I think that's kind of like, we'll kind of like bring this thing kind of down to a landing, but like I think that's where all of this kind of like comes in at, is we have such an incredible weight on our shoulders, and such an important job as a father, and as a husband, as the leader of our home. I think that's when it really comes down to it, because that's one of the big things in our small group that we really focus on, is being the spiritual leader of your household. And because let's face it, there's a lot of men, non-Christian and Christian, that aren't. And that's something that I really like want to see change. Because when it comes down to it, like we have so much influence, and so much good that can be done, from the position that we're in. And it starts there. Like it starts with where we're at with God, because there's so many people who rely on us to be good with God, and to listen to him, and to to have our ears open. And I think that's always something with the kids too. I'm like, why aren't you listening to me? But like God kind of says the same thing. Like you're not listening. You're not praying. You're not having the time with me that you need to have. So, I know both of my boys really like to just spend time with you. Most of the time we're just like, when I come home early from work, we're just sitting on the couch watching Spider-Man. But that's the thing. Like God wants you to do that with him too. Like that's, I always feel like any time in life, I mean, I try my best to do well with it, but I feel like the time where things are I don't want to say the best, but like when I feel like I'm really where I need to be is when I'm really digging in the Word, and really taking that time in the mornings to like specific intentional time to read my Bible, talk to him, write out my prayers, write out the things that I get. I think that if nobody takes anything else from this, or if you're still listening, do that. Like, I mean, really, like,
100%.
do that. Like, throw all the other stuff in the trash.
It's the most important thing you can do.
Read your Bible, pray, listen. That's paramount for all of us. Because if you're not doing that, all this other stuff, like anything you're striving for personally with work or with your family, with leading, is nothing if you're not doing that.
Yeah, and the one thing I just kind of a closing thoughts from my side. So we talked a lot about the guilt side of it, but the good thing is with the reward side of it. Whenever you have those moments, you're like when you realize that, like, hey, we were leading, the things we were doing is to set an example for God and like as a man, and like what it meant to be a Christian and be a leader. It's like when you see those moments when they finally get it. A couple years ago, probably about almost 2 years ago now. When my wife's uncle passed away, my oldest was very close with him, and it was the first time she really had experienced death and someone that she was close to, and she went through a rough patch with it, and me and Heather just had to like get together and like pray and like just to try to like intercede for her and like to show her love and just to show her that. But it was through that moment though, and like when she finally got it, and that was like I had the opportunity to lead her to Jesus and like to her ask Jesus in her heart in that moment, and it was a very rewarding time as a dad. Like you like they finally got it, like they're getting it, and it's crazy, and that's one of those things I just wanted to kind of hit that last point is like there's a lot of guilt, but there's also those rewarding moments too like that.
Yeah, awesome. I guess the last thing I would say too, thinking about that is to the husbands listening, to the fathers listening, even if you're not a father yet, you may one day become one, but you're a man, to encourage you, you were made for this. Men have a lot on their shoulders in general. When you become a husband and a father, it feels unweighty or unmanageable at times, but you were made for this. And, some of the best times that I see myself as a man is, just like you said, Gabe, going after God, but it's when the challenges come, and there's only two options, men. You can either bow out and, cowtail and turn around and not face the challenge, or you can just boldly walk into it, find whatever, tools, grow yourself, work on yourself, become a better man, a stronger man in areas you feel weak, and then just run after it as hard as you can. So I would challenge you to that as well. Like if you're, maybe you've been a dad for a while, you feel like a failure. Maybe you're an unexpected dad, whether it's your wife or your girlfriend or whatever. And, now you're becoming a father and it's just happening. It's, you're not stopping that. Go after it, man. Become the best father that you can be. And honestly, like you said, Gabe, and you too, Shawn, like the best way to do that, the best start is go after God with all that you have. Read your Bible, pray every single day, and stay close to the Father. And then really it just looks a lot like, here's who I've known God to be. I'm going to be that, and then I'm going to show my family what that looks like. And I mean, that's, like I said, you're made for this. So just run after it as hard as you can. Because you've got it within you, and God will show you, what He's put inside of you and who He's created you to be, and so you'll become the fulfillment of that when you get in the secret place with Him and you get in His light.
Yeah, it makes such a difference too. Mm-hmm. Like you'll see the difference in your family when you really start becoming that intentional and have that time with God. It's amazing how much difference you see.
And it's never too late. You know, like
absolutely,
like you said, no matter where you're at in the process, like that's one thing I love about our dad's group is like we have a wide range of people. We have people who we had a couple guys who haven't had a baby yet and who are have one on the way. A lot who have kids around the same age, but then a couple who have grown kids. Mm-hmm. So it's never too late, even if they are grown, to work on yourself as a father and to do these things. I definitely think that's God's grace is amazing, and he can help you through it. He can help you, get back those lost years, or even if maybe you didn't have a father growing up, and you don't feel like you have an example or tools to pull from. He can help you. He can give it to you. So yeah, I thank you guys for doing this today. This has been awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully we'll be back. We don't know what Sarah and Heather think about it. But yeah, we'll try to plan something for next year. But thank you guys for supporting them the way that you do. Like I said, we kind of run the back end of things, the social media side and audio side. So we get to see the love that you guys pour out on them. And seriously, thank you guys so much. It really means a lot to us. And yeah, hopefully we will be back with you soon. Bryce, thank you so much for sitting in with us today. And when we're back, we'll definitely bring you back with us. And yeah, we hope you guys have an incredible holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all the things. Eat a lot of food. I know we will. And spend some intentional time with your family. I think that's if that's the last thing I'm going to leave with you. There's a lot of things going on this time of year. And you never know what day is going to be your last. You never know what holiday season, what Christmas is going to be your last. And so spend every moment that you can with them and love on them good. Yeah. So, all right. Well, y'all be good, and we will hopefully talk to you next year.
Awesome.
Deuces.
Peace out.
Hello? They did what? Ugh. Okay. Shawn!
Wait a second. I can explain.
You can explain what?
Well, see, I like to go. I have missed out on things, and
You have FOMO, right?
Yeah, and so we just did it, and so
Yeah.
this is the second part of the outro.
I'm calling Blair.